Hi everyone, and thanks for joining me today. So I had not originally been planning on making this particular video, but after working with a number of new students this past summer, I decided that it might not be a bad idea. So the truth is, there are plenty of good videos out there already that talk about a good bow hold for the cello. I've looked at about 8 or 10 of them, and all of them are at least okay. All of them have something worthwhile to offer. Some, of course, are better than others. Ultimately, everybody will develop his or her own unique hold. Everybody's going to hold it just a little bit differently than other people. But it should be comfortable, and there are a number of important aspects that will be true in almost every case, and we'll talk about some of those aspects here in this video. There are a number of ways that teachers use to help beginning students get started with a good bow hold, and we'll go through some of the different approaches here. So one way to get started is simply by taking our right hand, our bow hand, and let it just kind of hang or drape like this. Bring the bow up to meet it. What you'll do is you'll make sure that the middle finger meets the bow on the ferrule, this metal part here. The other fingers will also rest on the stick of the bow. Okay, let me come a little bit closer so you can see that. Okay, now on the other side, see if I can do this. Your thumb is going to come to rest right at the front bump of the frog. It'll be partly on that bump and partly on the wood of the stick. And we have a bow hold. Okay. Another approach that some people advocate is what I might call the open hand approach. In this case, you hold the bow like so. Make sure that the hair is pointed away from you and the screw end of the bow is to your left. Okay, now take your bow hand and rest the wood of the bow on the first joints of these 3 fingers like so. Let me come a little bit closer. So you have this kind of a thing. Okay. Now simply let the tip of the pinky touch the bow as well, and let your thumb come into place as well. Now simply turn the whole thing over and slide everything over here until the thumb comes to that exact spot that I mentioned in the first method. Right? You want the thumb right on that spot. Okay? Your middle finger here will end up in that same place as it did before, partly on the ferrule. It can also touch the side of the hairs a little bit as well. And notice where the rest of the fingers are as well. Okay, so that was the open hand technique, and you'll see we end up in pretty much the same position as we had with the other. Another approach that I sometimes use is what I call the pencil approach. Take a pencil. Okay? Now simply hold it in your fingertips in a very comfortable and natural way. Okay? You'll see that my fingers are just resting naturally on the pencil. They're not working hard. Okay? That's pretty easy. Now keeping this in mind, instead of holding the pencil, hold the wood of the bow in the exact same way. Exact same thing. Okay? Now, in order to end up in the right place, bring it down so that your thumb is in that same home spot that it's been before. Okay? And now simply extend these 2 fingers forward a little bit. Okay? You may need to adjust a tiny little bit, and voila, there you have a good cello hold. A good bow hold, rather. So I hope one or maybe a combination of those approaches will work for you. Now, we've said that everybody's going to end up with a slightly different grip compared to other people, but there are some things that will be constant throughout. Let's start with 3 do's. The first do is keep that thumb in the place that I had indicated. Okay, you want it to be touching the front bump of the frog, and also touching the wood of the bow that's right next to that bump. So that's where you want your thumb to be. Okay, and you want it to be sort of on the corner of your thumb. You don't want the flat of the thumb. So like so. So do keep a good thumb position on the bow. The next do is the placement of this middle finger. Make sure it's either on this ferrule about there or very, very close to it. You don't want it straying too far away. So right there is a good spot for it. And the last do is to consider that your bow grip is going to be basically fingertip based. We're holding the bow with the tips of our fingers, and there's going to be a good amount of space in between the bow and the palm of our hand. Okay. As I sometimes say to students, we should be able to fit something like a ping pong ball or a golf ball in there. All right, we talked about some do's, now let's talk about some don'ts. What may be the most important is this one. Do not let your bow grip collapse. I had mentioned that there needs to be space in between the stick of the bow and the palm of your hand. Too many students end up collapsing their grip and ending up with something like this or like this. Don't let that happen. If you see that the palm of your hand is very close to or even on any part of the bow, then something's wrong. All right? The palm of the hand will always stay well separated from the bow. Very important. Another important don't. Our fingers are touching the bow, but we do not want any of the fingers to curl around the bow. I've seen a number of students a tendency for that first finger to curl around that bow. You may feel like you're getting more control, you're actually losing control by doing that. So the finger will be on top of the bow, but never curled around it. Okay? Do not curl. Keep it uncurled. The last don't is regard to the thumb. So we talked about the good thumb placement. So keeping that thumb where it is, but it's also important not to let it unbend rather. Let me say that again. You want to keep your thumb bent, not unbent. Too many students end up with this kind of position. That's not going to work. We want to keep it bent so that the corner of the thumb and not the flat of the thumb is in the right place. This will also result in much more control. When you straighten out your thumb, we lose control. This helps to maintain control. Now, a good bow stroke is at least as important as the hold that we use, but for most students that I've worked with, this seems to come significantly more easily once a good, comfortable, and effective bow hold is established. We may talk some more about good bow strokes in a future video. Well, I hope that some of this helped you in getting a more comfortable and more effective bow hold. If you have any questions of any kind, please leave a comment and I will respond to as many as I can. Well, thanks again for joining me, and I hope to see you again next time.